Valentine's Day, Chapter 43, Legendary. It was the quietest on Sunday the Meridian Empire had ever witnessed. After a week of burning constellations and build-up, all of the Empress's birthday celebrations had been cancelled due to Valentine's continued state of failing health. Her people had been informed of her illness that morning, and the entirety of Alinda was in a somber mood. Even the sun didn't shine quite as bright. It seemed content to hide behind clouds. Only one corner of it peeked out, sending a ray of light into the room where Donatella Dragoness sat with her sister Scarlet. For her part, the young Dragoness sister felt as if she entered the world where both her dreams and nightmares had collided. She dreamed of her mother so many times. Usually it was nightmares where her mother had abandoned Tella all over again. But occasionally, Tella had dreams where her mother returned. It always happened the same way. Tella would be asleep in her dream, and then her mother would wake Tella with a tender kiss on her forehead. Tella's eyes would flutter open, then her arms would fly around her mother's neck, and indescribable joy would take over. It always felt like the urge to cry mingled with the need to laugh, and the kind of happiness that was almost painful. It pressed against Tella's chest, making it hard to breathe and difficult to form words, and it should have been even more potent now that her mother was returned. She lay atop Scarlet's bed, peaceful as doomed damsel in distress, all pale cheeks, dark hair, and unnaturally red lips. Tella tried not to be concerned by the exaggerated colors of her mother's lips and skin, reminding herself that for years she's been a painting on a card, not a woman. Her mother was now free, and it was because of Tella that victory alone should have given Tella wings to soar around the room, out the window and over the glass courtyard below. But the idea of wings made Tella think of a pair of wings tattooed on a beautiful back, which then conjured thoughts of one person she wasn't supposed to be thinking about. Legend. Her veins heated at the thought of his name. She had no idea where he'd gone after he left her on the steps outside the Temple of the Stars, and she didn't want to wonder about it. She didn't want to replay every encounter she had with him, every word he said to her, every look he gave her, or every kiss they shared. Each memory hurt behind her eyes and in her lungs and in her throat, growing uncomfortably tight whenever she recalled their last moments together. It felt like weakness to keep thinking of him. Tella knew she had to be completely unfeeling to have banished him from her thoughts after all they'd experienced. And Tella never wanted to be unfeeling, but she didn't want to be consumed with him either. The only way to stop her thoughts of him was to keep focus of her mother, who was there and would eventually wake up. Tella was still stunned Jax had kept his promise and returned Paloma to her. Maybe he was in love with Tella after all. She was his one true love, although Tella imagined that being the object of a fate's affection was a dangerous thing. But she wasn't worrying about the fates for now. Jax had made it clear that it would take the fates longer than it would take her mother to wake up. Tella wiped Paloma's head with a cold cloth. Not that it made any difference. Her mother didn't have a fever, but Tella felt better if she was doing something. She doesn't look as if she's aged since she left, Scarlet said. It's not natural. I'm fairly certain nothing about being imprisoned in a card is natural, Tella said. That earned her a deeper frown. As soon as the sisters had reached the palace the night before, Tella had fallen asleep in her sister's bed. She woken up when Jax had returned with her rare and conscious mother. He hadn't mentioned where he found her, but he let something slip about she was trapped inside a card and how Tella had made a great sacrifice to save her. Tella had hoped that would be one of those occasions where her sister would choose to ignore the subject of her mother, but it rather difficult to ignore someone when they're laying in the room looking cursed. Scarlet had questioned Tella relentlessly until she confessed everything. Scarlet had not handled most of it well, especially the bit about Tella telling her mother place inside the card. After begging Tella never to risk something like that again, Scarlet had turned her in anger on her mother. She couldn't look at Paloma without scowling. Tella couldn't blame her sister. Underneath all that anger, Tella dictated that Scarlet harbored a fair amount of guilt for being unaware of so many things that went on during Garber, and that the game was very real this time. Though none of it was Scarlet's fault, and surprisingly, Tella couldn't bring herself to regret anything she'd done, though she wished she hadn't fallen so far for legend, which thankfully her sister wasn't mentioning. Tella was curious to know if Julian had told Scarlet that Dante was legend, since his identity seemed to be the one thing Tella was physically incapable of talking about. Scarlet had shared with Tella that she was giving Julian another chance. Sensitive to Tella's current feelings about Legend and Carvel, Scarlet had not gone into too many details about it, but Tella imagined her sister wouldn't have completely forgiven Julian unless he gave her more than a few smoldering looks and kisses, which made Tella suspect her sister was more unaware of Legend's true identity than she let on the night before. What if we play a game? Tella suggested. Do you have a deck of regular cards? She opened the drawer on the nightstand next to Scarlett's bed. Don't. Scarlett leaped up. If she hadn't reacted so strongly, Tella might have shut the drawer without looking too hard. But the minute Scarlett shouted, Tella's interest intensified. There was a book inside the drawer, a fancy red letter thing, with an equally fine-looking letter poking out from beneath it. What's this? Tella plucked the note from under the book. It was addressed to Scarlett. Tella didn't recognize the return address, but she was familiar with the name on it. Count Nicholas d'Arcy. Tella sat there, speechless, because she didn't think shouting was a good idea. Scarlett's entire face went pink. I can explain. I thought you were giving Julian another chance. I am, but I'm giving Nicholas a chance as well. Nicholas? You know, on a first-name basis with your former fiancé. Tella desperately hoped her sister was joking, paying Tella back for all the secrets that she kept. But if this was all true, the strange looks Scarlett and Jax had shared in the garden now made sense. Is this the person you asked Jax to help you find? Jax told you I asked for his help? Scarlett sounded surprised, as if she actually trusted the Prince of Hearts. I saw you step out of the same carriage as him the other night, Tella said. Scarlett brought her hands to her cheeks, covering her increasing blush. I found him after you told me he'd been able to locate your mother. I've been searching for Nicholas on my own, but I had no luck, and going to Jax for help gave me an excuse to interrogate him about his intentions with you, not that he was honest about anything. I don't think either of us can criticize anyone for being dishonest, Tella snapped. I planned to tell you about Nicholas, but I was waiting for the right time. Scarlett shot a look at her mother, a silent reminder that Scarlett was not the only one with secrets. I wouldn't have kept this from you, but I know you never liked him. I still don't. Exchanging letters with him is a mistake. Don't worry, Scarlett said. I'm not planning on marrying him, but I appreciate if you don't mention that to Julian. I think a little rivalry might be good for him. So that's what this is about. Tella was more than a little stunned. You want a competition between the Count and Julian? I wouldn't call it a competition, Scarlett said. I don't plan on giving either of them tasks to complete. But how can I truly know Julian is right for me if I have no one else to compare him to? I thought you'd be proud of me. You're the one who always wanted me to make my own decisions. Scarlett grinned, as sly as a cat, who just learned to sneak out of her house and explore the world beyond. Tella always thought her sister had underestimated her, but maybe she was the one who'd been underestimating Scarlett. Tella still didn't like the idea of the Count. Even though she no longer trusted what the oracle had shown her, she had a horrible feeling when it came to Count Nicholas d'Arcy. His letters had always seemed a little too perfect. He was a dictionary definition of a gentleman. No one was that polished in real life. Either he was terribly dull or a fraud, and yet, despite her reservations, Tella was proud of her sister for making such a bold choice. Scarlett, bells low and long and sorrowful bells rang across the palace. Tella shuddered at the tragic sound, instantly forgetting whether she'd been saying as the bells continued to cry. These were not clocks striking the hour, they were morning bells wailing out a song of loss. In the bed, Tella's mother stirred. She didn't wake from her cursed slumber, but the bells had clearly disturbed her. In between the somber tune, Tella felt a flurry of activity in the hall. Rushing footsteps, chattering voices, more than a few unbridled sobs, and she knew. Empress Valentine had died. Tella had only met the Empress twice, but she felt a surprising surge of emotion at the thought of her life ending, of her body going stagnant and her eyes closing forever. Scarlett must not have been certain, or she must have no idea. She rose from her seat and opened the door right as the servants scurried by. What's all the commotion? Her Majesty passed away, the servant confirmed. They're saying the new heir, her missing child, is now making his first appearance from the Golden Tower. Everyone is going to the glass courtyard to see. You can probably view the tower from your window. The maid darted off, and Tella crossed the door to part the curtains at the largest window wider. Light streamed in, honey thick and bright. The sun had made its way out from behind the clouds at last, and seemed to be making up for the lazy job it had done that afternoon. With the morning bell still ringing, it felt wrong for it to be shining so brightly, beaming over the entire courtyard, which was indeed filling with people. I can't believe the Empress is dead, Scarlett said. You would have liked her, Tella murmured. She gave hugs the way I've always wished our Anna had. Nana actually gave you hugs? Once, Tella said. Trust me, you weren't missing anything. Tella had not cried when her man, Nana Anna, had died, although the woman had made a little effort to raise her. Tella never felt any affection toward her, but Tella had liked the Empress. Their acquaintance had been brief, but Valentine had shifted Tella's course. If their paths had ever crossed, Tella's mother might still be trapped in the garden. Tella craned her neck as she looked past the glass courtyard toward the Golden Imp Tower. Every window and balcony was open. From the maids and servants tossed black flower petals onto the gathering crowd below. The grim tribute was even sadder than the bells. Only one balcony failed to rain down any flowers. Instead, this terrace flew royal blue flags with the Meridian Empire bold a white crest. In the center of it stood one figure. One hair on Tella's body stood at attention when she saw him. Tella could not clearly make out his face, but she could see his top hat, sharp and black and unmistakably legend. That blackguard. Tella knew legend was full of secrets, but this was one she'd not even considered. He was posing as Untain's missing child. This was why he left her on the steps right as the fireworks had begun. He went off to watch them with the Empress, although Tella imagined he would have left her anyway. It was so inappropriate, but Tella couldn't stop the laugh that bubbled up inside her. She thought she was the key to his entire game, but of course Legend was playing more than one game. He hadn't come to Valinda merely to destroy the Fates and take all their powers for him. He'd chosen the city as of his game board so he could claim the throne.